It would be real sick if more people had a basic understanding of economics, supply and demand, and how the free market economy is supposed to work. Because if they did, every time somebody stubs their toe, they wouldn't be looking to daddy government to save them. They wouldn't be looking to Slow Joe to bounce them on his knee, feed them a Werther's Original, and promise them everything's gonna be okay. Jilly, where are we? Do me a favor, make me a chocolate milkshake. Make me an equitable milkshake. Unless you've been living under a beanbag chair for the past few days, you're aware of this gas situation. Now, this situation is not the responsibility of the federal government. This was a private company that had this issue. But the real issue is the supposed stopping of quote-unquote price gouging. Joey Basement, 10% to the big guy, came out and got real close to the microphone. Listen up, guys. Listen up. I don't want to hear anybody in these gas stations price gouging. What? Basically what he's saying is that the federal government or the authorities are going to step in if they hear any news of any gas station supposedly price gouging or charging more money for gasoline. Now most people would be like, price gouging, yeah, save us, Joe, save us, Joe. But they don't even understand what this actually means. The way that a free market economy works is that as demand for something goes up, when the supply of something is limited, the price goes up accordingly. So if gas stations were able to raise the price of gasoline proportionate to the amount of demand that there was for it, a lot of different things would happen as a result. The free market economy would do its thing, so to speak. The first and most obvious thing that would happen would be that people would only purchase that expensive gasoline in quantities that they needed for a shorter period of time until they could wait for more supply to come back so that they could fill their tank maybe later. They would only fill up what they actually need in the short term because the price would be so high. People that work from home or people that didn't really need it wouldn't feel the need to go and fill up on expensive gasoline. They would just stay at home and wait until the price went down and more supply came back, which would only be a couple of days. People, as a result, that actually need gasoline wouldn't be waiting in multi-hour, 3, 4, 5-hour gasoline lines because the price would be so expensive that most of those people wouldn't get it unless they actually needed it. People that did absolutely need it would probably be people that are using that gasoline to go and make more money. So the real essential people, the people that really needed to do it as a needs to move goods or get themselves to work or make more money or whatever, would only get exactly what they needed. There was not a shortage of gas in the entire United States. There were only shortages in certain parts of the country. So a higher price and higher demand would incentivize people that have resources, aka have gasoline in other surrounding states, to then go and take that gas and move it into the places where the gas was in low supply. They would be going to meet the demand because the high price would justify the amount of money that it would cost to transport it from wherever they are, where gas is in abundance, over to where there's a shortage. In addition to that, gas stations might take a little bit of extra money to invest in additional tanks where they could store more gasoline at any given time in the event of an eventual shortage, so that when that shortage came, they could cash in on the fact that they invested into having more on supply and having more in storage, so they can make an additional amount of money to justify making that investment initially. If they supposedly can't price gouge or raise the price for demand, then it doesn't matter. They're only going to make the exact same amount. There's no incentive for them to buy more tanks, hold more in storage, or be prepared for a rainy day. This would also, in and of itself, just make people safer. You've seen pictures, memes, news stories, and so forth, where even the Department of Transportation had to come out and say, don't put gasoline in plastic bags, you idiots. Because the price of gasoline is not proportionate to the low amount of supply, people are hoarding it, stocking up, filling up tanks and putting them in the back of their car or leaving them in their garage. Ultimately, number one, creating a hazard on the roadway. Number two, creating a hazard wherever that gasoline is stored unless they understand and know exactly how to store it safely. And then on top of that, they're taking gasoline away from the people that actually do need it. As a result, the gas supplies get low, everybody starts to hoard it, people get in a mad rush, people start to panic, and gas stations completely run out of gas. But because there's not enough money, because they can't sell it for enough, no one from any surrounding area is willing to transport it into that area because the cash doesn't justify it. The price doesn't justify it. This is how the free market economy is supposed to work. If basic economics, the free market economy, and supply and demand was allowed to work the way that it does, and prices were according to supply and demand, the price would have gone up, people only would have bought it that needed it, they would have bought a limited supply, nobody would have been without, other gas stations would have been incentivized to store more and prepare for this type of event, and there would not have been a crisis. But instead, politicians and Joey Basement and all of these completely clueless people that are appealing to completely clueless people that don't pay attention and don't have a basic understanding of how the economy works, they can go and grandstand and say, this isn't America, this isn't what we do, we don't price gouge. You mean meet market demand with a price that the market can bear. That's how a free market economy works, that's how economics works, that's how it's supposed to work. It would solve its own problem, but politicians grandstand, they get political points, and everyone's like, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Let me take that Werther's Original. I'm going to be on my way. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Grandpa. But because your average person doesn't understand these basic fundamental elements of the free market economy, supply and demand, and basic economics, all they do is virtue signal. Virtue, virtue, virtue. Look how virtuous I am. They can't charge more money to meet the demand, so you just have people filling up dozens and dozens of tanks of gas unsafely, hoarding it, and then the people that actually need it can't get it. But hey, who cares about knowing stuff? Who cares about understanding how the world actually works? Who cares about basic economics? Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is greed. The only thing that matters is virtue. The only thing that matters is political point. Because virtue signaling to a vast majority of people that don't understand the basics of how these things work leaves them in a constant state of unknowing, a constant state of reliance. If more people just had a basic understanding of how this worked, they would realize that the government and the supposed price gouging rules stepping in actually makes the problem considerably worse than it ever would have been. But hey, who cares about that? Self-reliance is out the window. Nobody cares about depth of understanding. Nobody cares about the people actually being educated and informed. The only thing that matters is that you can appeal to the most people that yell the loudest, get the most virtue, score the most political points, have the most greed, hold the most power, and control everyone all the time forever. The sad part is that the vast majority of people take the surface level information and go, yep, that sounds right. They don't take the time to have the depth of understanding as to what it actually means. They don't understand that the federal government and some centralized structure getting in the way of the free market economy, getting in the way of self-reliance, getting in the way of personal responsibility, getting in the way of how business is supposed to work causes more problems than the actual problem was initially. Our systems are good. Capitalism is good. The free market economy is good. What's bad is large, overbearing, and controlling government. But they gave us a free donut though. It was free. A diabetes disc, what is it now? Diabetes? Oh. It makes sense. I could see it. I do see it. They're totally screwing us, aren't they? Oh, no.